Okay.
And
Did you play?
I played for my A team, and I was pretty good.
Oh, you're in the A team?
I was pretty good.
Okay. What position did you play?
Blindside flanker.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So I was really into rugby because I went to rugby school and I loved football, but my school didn't play football. And so I was like, no, I've got to be on the school's main team.
Sure.
So I worked really hard to get on the team. But after we played rugby on a Saturday, my mum forced me to go to dance class. And part of it was ballet and tap as well.
Really?
Although I did not end up at the West End and play Billy Elliot because I don't think Billy Elliot was brown. So that wasn't going to happen. It wasn't the same path as you.
Oh,
but I also had that experience. That's why I had to ask you about it.
Did you enjoy it?
I really enjoyed it for the community aspect for it. Like I love all the lads that I was there with. And they were just a great laugh. And it was really interesting because I'd literally go from playing rugby straight to class on a Saturday, and I'd go in there with all my bruises, exhausted, and all the rest of it. But everyone was just so much fun.
Sure.
And it's almost like the rugby pitch was more stressful because everyone 100%. Was like, you know, trying to be intense and trying to be this and that, whereas everyone was just having a laugh at the dance class. And we do everything from hip hop to street to whatever. But yeah, I remember never telling. I think this is the first time I've ever spoken about it.
It's out there.
Because I'm in a safe space with you. So
but it's interesting because rugby's regimented, isn't it?
Yeah, I love rugby, by the way.
You play a position that is as specific as saying the blindside flanker. You know, when you're a dancer, you're just a dancer. You know, you can fit in however you want to fit in.
Yeah.
The teacher can ask you, how are you feeling about that? Rather than like, you need to get your head down to the left to make a proper tackle. I did love playing rugby when I was smaller.
Yeah.
Not when I was smaller, when all the kids were smaller. And then there was that time where I came back to school after Billy Elliot and everyone had just become a man. And I was still very much a child.
Yeah.
I remember we played this school called Trinity College. And it was my first game back, and I was playing scrum half. I came on the second half, and it was a violent game. It was not a gentleman's game of rugby. And I was standing, they were kicking to us, we were receiving. And I remember thinking, as long as the ball doesn't come to me off of the kick, I'll be fine. I need the game to get going, and then I'll be fine. I'm scrum half, relatively safe position, I'm a good playmaker. As soon as he kicked the ball, it's coming straight towards me. I'm trying to catch it. I can hear the boots running towards me. I fumble it, knock on. The game goes on. I start playing well. I assisted a try. And then I don't remember what happened or how it happened. But there was a really tough kid on our team who will remain nameless. I haven't spoken to him since. I don't know what he's doing. But he got into a fight with some kid on the opposing team. And it was really quite ugly. And then the kid's dad came on the pitch to tell off this boy that was on my team, and the kid on my team knocked out his dad.
No.
Like proper, like it's the first time I've ever seen someone hit someone. And I couldn't believe that a kid who was...
How old are you? Yeah.
He must have been 16 at the time, but he's one of those 16-year-olds that would look older than I do now when he was 16. And I just remember hearing the noise. He like cracked this dad on the jaw, hit the floor. Then this whole big fight broke out. I'm not a fighter. I stepped away and was sort of like, what's going on? Yeah, it was wild. And that was the last game of rugby I ever played. It was against Trinity College.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really intense.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is intense. Yeah, that's how intense it got. My last game was similar, but not watching a fight. So someone ran, it was a big game, and it was like I was playing really well that season and everything was going really well. And someone ran into a rock, but with their elbow, which is obviously illegal.
Totally.
They ran in and they elbowed me right there, like right below, it's on this side and right below there. And then next thing I know, I get up and I'm like kind of feeling a bit aggressive.
Are you cut as well?
Well, I didn't notice, and then blood starts to drip, and I was like, that's when you freak out because you're like, oh God, I'm like, and there's a lot of blood just dripping. So I get subbed off, and the nurse on the side just puts a bit of glue there, like to stick it together.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, you don't really notice, and you think you're all right. And then literally an hour later, it's just getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And I'm ending up with this, run to the hospital on the way home because my coach was just like, suck it up, it's fine.
You'll be fine.
Run there. They're like, if you were any later, you would have had nerve damage and like potentially lost your eyesight, whatever it was. And they had to like glue it and a little bit of stitches or whatever it was. And for the rest of the month, I walked around with my, like, you know, eye literally hanging over, and I looked like I'd got into like the worst fight. Like I walked into a store and everyone would kind of back off and stuff. And it was just really uncomfortable. That was my last game of rugby. That's why I just remembered that. But yeah, it was intense, but it was great. Like you said, it was great regimented discipline training. I loved training with my mates. I loved playing. I loved, as a young man as well, like having a outlet to release the energy that I had.
Totally.
I felt was good in obviously in a way that wasn't trying to hurt others.
But that's what's so great about boxing.
Yeah.
It's like boxing is such a great release. You know, you see these young kids who are angry, who need to let something go, like go and punch a bag for an hour. Like that will calm you down.
Yeah.
I love how boxing is such a great thing for young people to release that sort of energy.
Are you boxing? Do you box?
I love boxing.
Yeah.
It's been a few years since I've done any sort of training. I used to go to this great gym in New York called Church Street Boxing. Used to love it there. Had a great pro. You could sort of spar with him because you know that he wouldn't batter you because he could control himself. I went to one sparring session, just a general session, and I got absolutely battered. Yeah, it was tough, but I love it. I love the sport. I'm a little bit sad as to like how the sport is being run right now.
Right.
But I do love the sport and I admire the athletes. I think they're amazing.
What's your take on YouTubers, boxing and all that kind of stuff? And because it's obviously bringing a lot of attention to the sport.
To be perfectly honest with you, mate, I don't really mind it.
Yeah.
I think it's quite fun. I think if you're doing it for the right reasons, you know, there's a great opportunity to raise some money for amazing charities. And I think a few of them have done a lot for charity. I think it's really great. I think, you know, my brother Paddy would never have been watching boxing and now he loves it because of his favourite YouTubers at boxing. So if it's good for the sport, it's good for the sport. I sort of don't really mind. I think it's funny, to be honest. Because you sit at home watching it, you're like, I could do that. I could get in there and do that. And you're like, well, why don't you? And you're like, well, I don't really want to do that.
So we might see you in Creed 4 then.
Absolutely.
We'll do the acting boxing.
I'd love to do a boxing movie.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to do a boxing movie, but where the fighting is real.
Walk me through that.
I wouldn't necessarily be in that film, right? But I do think that you could make a really interesting film where the outcome of the film is determined on the outcome of the real fight.
Has anything like that ever been done? Like racing or any can you, I'm just trying to.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, not that I know of. That's what I'm trying to think.
It could be really cool.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, I love boxing movies. I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah. Which one's your favorite?
I think Rocky 2 is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
I remember when we were in Billy Elliot, we had this room called the Billy Room, and there was always a Billy backstage while the show was going on because the show was so labor intensive. It was very dangerous. There's lots of moving parts. There's lots of acrobatics. It wasn't too uncommon for a Billy to get injured, and then there would be someone upstairs who would replace that Billy. And we would just hang out upstairs and there was an Xbox and a television and all that sort of stuff. And one of the DVDs that we had, the two DVDs we had was Step Up to the Streets, my favorite film of all time, and Rocky 2. And I must have seen that film 40 times.
How many times did you practice the dance in the mirror?
Oh, mate, I've got the whole dance down, bro.
Can we see it?
No. Yeah, no, I love that film. I absolutely love that film.
Yeah, I'd say my favorite. So Rocky was my favorite because I'd watch it with my dad.
Sure.
And Rocky... I struggle between Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 because I loved Mr. T. And
That's 4,
3,
right?
That's 3.
That's 3.
And I loved Ivan Drago as well, which was 4. And they were both just such great movies.
Yeah.
It was just, it's such great entertainment, even though it's nothing like real boxing.
Yeah, nothing at all. Nothing at
like
all.
real boxing. But then I remember watching real boxing when I was growing up. It was Prince Nassim.
Oh, man,
So
I love him.
Yeah, my dad was a big fan of his, so I'd remember watching him a lot.
I love his style. There's a video of him working with I guess it's like a swinging bag, and he is so effortless. Because Canelo's got a great head movement, but he looks like he's thinking about it.
Yeah.
Whereas Nazim is just living the dream. Just he's so fluid, and I love the way he used to move.
Yeah.
And I love how he would enter the ring. Me, I would over-rotate and slam on my face or something. Yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah, it was like
Amazing.
wrestling meets boxing.
Yeah. He must have been a nightmare to fight.
Yeah.
It must have been like, he's beating me and he's embarrassing me. This is really tough.
Terrible.
What do you think of Lemachenko? Did you see his last fight?
I haven't. No, I didn't see it.
That's an interesting one.
Go on, tell me. I didn't see it at all.
Well, I think the general consensus is that he won.
Oh.
But it was given the other way.
Right.
He is my favourite boxer.
Right.
Because of his history, his background in dance. He was like, I guess, a really talented boxer. And then I don't know if this is true, but his dad sent him to go and study dance for sort of 5 years or something like that.
For his boxing training.
Which is why his footwork is like on another planet.
Wow.
There's loads of examples of where he's fighting people and they look up and he's just gone. He's behind them. So I really admire him. But his most recent fight, he lost.
How did it go against him? Was it a vote?
It was a vote, yeah.
Right.
They went against him. So I wonder whether they'll fight again.
Yeah, I guess they'll have to if there's. It seems like this isn't a conspiracy theory.
But that's
from
the
you.
problem with boxing, though. Like, will they fight again?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, because
yeah.
it's a tricky business. Unlike the UFC, where if they want to fight, they'll fight. That's what I love about it. I took my brother and my cousin to the UFC the other night, and that is such a savage sport.
It is.
That is, it's terrifying.
I really don't want that to be a movie and a real one.
Have you seen The Warrior?
I was just
Is that what you're going to talk about? Mate, that movie's so good.
The Warrior is one of the most underrated movies.
That movie's
so
excellent.
good. Yeah,
it's a little ridiculous, the idea that they have like 6 fights a night getting ready for one final. But I do love that film.
Yeah. It's a really good
brilliant.
movie. It's a really good movie. Oh, well, okay, all right. So we know there's a boxing movie coming somewhere down the line.
There's got to be one down the line.
There's got to be one down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we want to see you work your way up. And we might see you actually go do it for real. Sounds like
imagine. God, for charity, maybe.
One of the things that you mentioned recently was that you gave up drinking about 1.5 years ago.
Yes.
And you said it was the hardest thing you ever did.
Yes.
And I wanted to know what was so hard about it for you. Why was it so hard?
It's interesting. I didn't one day wake up and say, I'm giving up drinking. I just, like many Brits, had a very, very boozy December. Christmas time, I was on vacation. I was drinking a lot, and I've always been able to drink a lot. I think I get my genes from my mum's side in that thing. Like I can drink, and I decided to just give up for January. I just wanted to do dry January, and all I could think about was having a drink. It's all I could think about. I was waking up thinking about it. I was checking the clock. When's it 12? And it just really scared me. I just was like, wow, maybe I have a little bit of an alcohol thing. So I sort of decided to punish myself and say, I'll do February as well. I'll do 2 months off. If I can do 2 months off, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. 2 months go by, and I was still really struggling. I felt like I couldn't be social. I felt like I couldn't go to the pub and have a lime soda. I couldn't go out for dinner. I was really, really struggling. And I started to really worry that maybe I had an alcohol problem. So I decided that I would wait until my birthday, which is June 1st. I said to myself, if I can do 6 months without alcohol, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. And by the time I had got to June 1st, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. I could sleep better. I could handle problems better. Things that would go wrong on set that would normally set me off, I could take in my stride. I had such better mental clarity. I felt healthier. I felt fitter. And I just sort of said to myself, like, why am I enslaved to this drink? Why am I so obsessed by the idea of having this drink? And I would look back and recognize that I would go to events for work and be like, I can't enjoy myself until I've had a few beers. And I just felt so much pressure. And this is one of the things why I've sort of distanced myself from the rugby community, because so much of it is about how much can you drink? Let's get you as drunk as possible. And it's honestly been the best thing I've ever done. I'm 1.5 years into it now. It doesn't even cross my mind. I've found amazing replacements that I think are fantastic. Ones that are also really healthy. I found this one beer that it's full of electrolytes and it's, the carbohydrates in it are long-lasting energy. So like having a beer is now actually like a really healthy thing. I'm really lucky that all my friends are super supportive about it. I've never run into that scenario where my friends are like, oh, go on, just have a beer. Like, you're fine. They've always sort of really supported me. And I don't want to be that person that's saying to people, you should get sober, you should get sober. If I could encourage someone to drink less, then that's great. But I don't want to start getting into the world of, you need to stop drinking, because it's not for me to say. I went on my own little journey. I'm really enjoying it. I'm delighted that my mum's has also given up. She's loving it. And it's been amazing. I can't believe the difference that I feel from not drinking. Yeah. I feel amazing.
That's amazing, man. I love hearing that. And I love hearing that it's been great for you, right? I think that's the point. Not everything has to be like, look what I did, you can do it too. It's kind of like, no, this is just what's been great for me. Do you think it was partly that attitude, for you at least, in the beginning, where it's like, well, look, I can drink. I drink a lot. It comes from my mum genes and it doesn't affect me. And then all of a sudden you realize, well, wait a minute, it's more than that. Because I think there is that. Like, I was like that as a young man as well. Like, for me, it was easy to drink. I didn't drink daily. For me, I drank a lot more socially. Sure. And I loved playing drinking games with my mates. And that was really what I enjoyed the most, probably. And for me, when I quit, I could just quickly see how it just got me into doing things I would never do if I wasn't drunk. So for me, it was more that. But yeah, I wonder for you, did you find that there's a really fine line between like, oh, I know I can drink a lot, and then all of a sudden you're kind of not addicted beyond that.
No, addicted, mate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy to say, like,
Yeah.
I was definitely addicted to alcohol. Not shying away from that at all. I think anyone that wakes up and anyone that has a beer every day is probably got a little bit of a problem. But yeah, you're right. I would drink and drink and drink and drink, and then you would just reach that moment where you're like, wow, I shouldn't have had that last beer. And you wake up the next day and you have a terrible headache and you're suffering. I bought one of those rings that will tell you about your sleep.
Yeah, Oura ring.
Yeah, and it was amazing because I couldn't
yeah.
sleep. I was like, why can't I sleep? I'm working 14 hours a day. I'm doing 2 hours in the gym. I'm eating really healthily and I can't sleep. What's wrong with me? I bought this ring and it was booze. It was completely affecting my sleep. And since I've given it up, I can sleep anywhere, you know? It's also interesting as well, going on nights out and having a great time as the sober person, and then getting to that point in the night where people start, you know, spitting in your ear and everyone's, I love you, man. I love you so much. And you're like, yeah, brilliant. I love you too. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to bed. Like, I love being that person now.
Yeah.
I love seeing my friends on the golf course at 8 a.m. in the morning, feeling fresh and ready to go.
Yeah.
And they're sort of crawling out their car. And so, yeah. So I'm over the moon to be sober. I love it.
Yeah. For anyone who is listening right now and is going, Tom, I love that for you. I want to do it too. Like, they're listening going, I'm having too much every day. I can notice some of those things, but I'm just stuck. And it's hard because we know that addiction's that way. We know that this is heavy. It's not easy. But if someone is watching going, Tom, tell me, like, what did you do to even get started? How did you have that courage to say, I'm going to do January, I'm going to stick at it? Were there any moments where you actually fell back and then had to get back on the horse again? Like, just walk us through that a little bit more for anyone who is watching going, Tom, mate, I want to be in your position in like 6 months.
I didn't fall back on it. I have done in the past. Like, I've had periods of my life where I'd given up drinking and then gone back to drinking. But this time, I don't know, it was just different. I really worked to sort of change my mindset. I really asked myself, like, why do you drink? Why are you drinking? And a lot of the time, my answer would be to feel more comfortable in the social environment.
Yeah.
And I just put myself in those environments and just would force myself to be there. I'd force myself to hang out and go to a club or go to a bar, go to a dinner.
Yeah,
and
so you weren't avoiding those places.
I was at the beginning because I didn't feel like I could go and not have a drink because of the stress of it. But then after a while, I sort of was like, mate, you've got to pull your socks up here and you can't just live in your house all the time. You've got to go out and enjoy yourself. And if you're only enjoying yourself because you're drinking, then you really do have a problem. But I just changed my mindset. I found really good replacements, things that I could sort of attribute to having a beer. I often found with me, most of it is just the ritual of cracking something open and sharing it with friends and drinking it. Whether it's sparkling water or a beer, I don't associate, like, I don't see a difference.
Yeah.
But I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
I had a great support system. Jack is one of my best mates and we travel all over the world. He doesn't drink, and doing it with him was a really helpful experience for me. My brother is always on the road with me. He was very supportive. And yeah, I just really set my mind to it. I was like, I really want to do this. I want to prove to myself I can do it.
Yeah.
And then once I'd felt the health benefits and started really feeling like my full self, I was like, oh my God, this is the best. But do you not drink?
I haven't drank for 17 years.
No way.
Yeah,
congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, I feel amazing. Yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
It's like one of the best feelings in the world. And it's my biggest like worry when I was about to quit was like, how am I going to hang out with my mates?
That was my biggest worry.
I was like, my mates knew me as the guy who was like first to the game, last to get out. Like,
that was me back.
You know, the clown when I got drunk, like life of the party, kind of like that kind of guy. And then all of a sudden I decided I wasn't going to drink anymore. I was like, crap, how am I going to fit in? And then I remember I went into the corporate world for a bit and I didn't drink. And I was like, God, am I going to miss out on like opportunities and networking? Like, you know, all the guys afterwards are like going to get drinks. And I'm like, I'll come, but I'll have a water or I'll have a soda, whatever it is.
Sure.
And what was really interesting for me is not relying on drinking made me rely on qualities and skills I had that were actually better.
Yeah.
So now that I couldn't drink as an excuse to hang with the lads, I was bringing out parts of my personality that I probably would have just hidden away or ignored. Yeah, suppressed. And all of a sudden you were actually getting respected and liked for who you were rather than the person who you were when you were drunk.
Sure.
And actually that worked in the workplace, and there was no one at the workplace going, oh, Jay doesn't drink, so he's not getting promoted.
Right.
It wasn't like that. People were like, oh yeah, I really like hanging out with Jay, or he's a really good guy, or whatever it may be. And I was still getting the same opportunities and I was still getting promoted at work and whatever it was. And I think that's what I'd like to remind people, that don't feel like your career or your work is going to suffer. Even for you, like I'm sure as a, with your career path, you have to be at parties, you have to be at events.
Of course.
And the fact that you're able to do that now without having alcohol, and it doesn't sound like it's negatively impacting your career. If anything, it's the opposite.
Mate, I honestly cannot believe like the amount of times I've sat down with an actor that I've really admired, or sat down with a producer or director and been like, oh, well, I don't drink anymore. And they go, oh, I don't drink, 10 years. And you're like, oh my God. And I've had so many insightful conversations with people like yourself where you've heard their story, their reason for giving up. And there is a wonderful community of people. And I love it. I love being a part of that community. I'm really proud to be a part of it. I hope that, I can meet other people and chat to them about it, because it's really nice. It's lovely to be like, let's go get a lime soda together,
Yeah, let's get a juice. Let's get a smoothie. Yeah, no, it is true. It's true. And it's really interesting because I can't remember. I'm trying to remember. There was this blog that came out years ago. I can't even remember it now. And there was this girl on Instagram who was getting a lot of likes and a lot of comments and a lot of attention. And one day she just disappeared. Like, she stopped posting. And everyone's just like, all the comments were like, where are you? What happened? Are you okay? Like, what happened to you? Everyone was frantic trying to figure out what happened to her, because they loved her, they were following her and all the rest of it. And what they didn't know is that it was built by a team that was trying to show that what people didn't notice is that in every picture she posted, she was drinking. And it was it was almost like original AI that was made up to prove the point that you can love someone and you can think you're really close to them, and you can think their lifestyle looks amazing, but actually they've got a drink in every picture they post, and you didn't realize they had an alcohol problem. So there was no real person who died. But the point was that your friends could be struggling even when they're posting these beautiful lifestyle pictures. But are you aware?
Wow.
And are you conscious of how much it affects you? And I can't remember who built that page.
Well, I think that's one of the problems with alcohol, is that if you came out with alcohol right now, if alcohol wasn't a thing and you I've invented this drink that is going to make you either really happy or really aggressive or really stupid, and we're going to just sell it to the masses, people would be like, nah, mate, keep your funky juice. Like, we don't want that. That sounds terrible. And it's one of those things, because it is so socially acceptable, the addiction side of it, the bad sides of it really do fly under the radar.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. I'll tell you something I do love about being a non-drinker. I love being the designated driver.
Yeah.
I love being that person that makes sure that everyone gets home.